Imagine a headline splashed across your screen. Half of Europe's new cars were diesel in 2008. So how did the green savior turn into today's villain? Hi, I'm Morgan Lane. I'm a certified automotive safety specialist, and I spend my days digging through recalls and emissions files so you don't have to. You're watching Recall Roadmap with Morgan. Back then, diesel looked like the easy climate win. It burned less fuel per mile, and by 2008, it made up 50% of new car sales across Europe, according to major reports. Fast forward to now, and that share is falling fast. Cities are adding clean air zones. Car makers are quietly dropping diesel trims, and drivers who once swore by diesel are asking, what happened? Here's the plan. I'll tell this story the way we lived it, through headlines, test results, and the moments that flipped the script. We'll go from big promises to warnings to the scandal and what it means today. Quick favor, if you like data-driven auto history, tap like. And tell me in the comments, did you ever drive a diesel and think of it as green? Let's rewind to where the diesel boom began. Why did Europe encourage diesel in the first place? The short answer, miles and carbon. Diesel engines run lean. That means they squeeze more work from each drop of fuel. On average, drivers got about 20 to 30% better fuel economy than gas cars, so the CO2 per mile was lower. In the 1990s, politicians wanted fast climate gains, so they cut taxes on diesel fuel and nudged buyers to switch. It worked. Diesel's share of new cars in Europe climbed from about 15% in 1990 to roughly 25% by 1995. Tech helped a lot too. In 1997, Bosch rolled out common rail fuel injection. Suddenly, small diesels felt quieter and stronger. Then in 1998, the EU struck a carbon deal with automakers, and diesel adoption sped up again. By 2008, the headline was clear. Half of all new cars sold in Europe were diesel. We dug into those 90s policy files and old tax tables for this episode, and the logic was simple. Burn less, emit less. On paper, it made sense and saved fuel money at the pump. But every win has a trade-off. If diesel was such a climate hero, why did the story change so fast? Here's the catch. We have really stringent regulations. I heard that line a lot back then. Martin Williams, a former UK air quality chief, later said people trusted strict rules to keep diesel safe, and we were wrong. Here's the thing. Everyone knew diesel made more local pollution than gasoline. Two big ones stand out. First, fine soot, called particulate matter. These tiny bits can get deep into your lungs. Second, nitrogen oxides, or NOx. They irritate airways and feed smog. Health groups link both to asthma and heart disease. In 2013, European and WHO experts went further and flagged NOx itself as dangerous, not just a side effect. So why the confidence? Europe kept tightening lab limits, and from 2010, most new diesels needed particulate filters. Those filters really did slash soot, but filters didn't solve NOx. For that, we leaned on lab tests and hoped newer Euro standards would keep numbers low. Some shops even removed filters to avoid maintenance, undoing soot gains. But the bigger issue was invisible. Those lab numbers didn't match the air we breathed. If the rules were strong, why were city monitors still spiking? Road tests held the clue. Now we tested on the road. Independent teams strapped analyzers to everyday cars and drove city streets and highways. Around 2014, groups like the International Council on Clean Transportation and a team from West Virginia University did this at scale. The numbers hit like a brick. In 2000, real diesel NOx was about 2 times what the lab rules allowed. By 2005, it was around 3 times. By 2014, it blew past 7 times in many cases. One major paper called it a chasm between what the law required and what people actually breathed. What made it stranger was timing. Standards kept tightening, yet the gap kept growing. The same cars that looked clean on a rolling drum inside a test cell were choking city blocks when they got out in traffic. I combed through those reports like a detective. Plates, models, test labs. The pattern held. It wasn't random. Something in the system made cars behave one way in the lab and a very different way on the street. Software? Sensors? Clever calibration? That question pulled the thread that unraveled the sweater. And in 2015, the headline we all remember gave us the answer. September 2015, headline after headline. Volkswagen admits cheating on diesel emissions. The US EPA revealed the magic trick. Certain diesel cars had software that could tell when they were in a lab test. In that mode, the engine dialed down NOx and sailed through. But once back on real roads, the settings changed. Power felt normal, and NOx spiked far above legal limits. At first, the notice covered roughly 500,000 cars in the US. Soon after, the company acknowledged that around 11 million vehicles worldwide carried similar code. The internet named it Dieselgate, and trust in the clean diesel story collapsed overnight. As a recall investigator, I went back to the documents. We reviewed EPA press releases and company admissions, pages of sworn statements. So the timeline and the fix steps were clear. It wasn't just bad tuning. It was a design defeat device, there to pass tests and pollute on the road. Shock turned into questions. If one major brand did this, was it alone? Were others simply using softer tricks that still gamed the system? Regulators were already sharpening pencils. The next wave of headlines answered that fast. The bills and recalls came fast. Volkswagen set aside more than $30 billion for fines, buybacks, and legal costs. Millions of cars worldwide were called back for software fixes or hardware updates. In Europe, some models were pulled from sale while labs retested them. Prosecutors pursued cases and executives faced indictments. It was one of the largest corporate repair programs in auto history. And it didn't stop at one badge. Regulators probed other brands, Audi in the group, plus Mercedes, Fiat, BMW, and more, checking for test gaming tactics. As Professor Alistair Lewis put it, VW was caught red-handed, but others likely played games to pass tests. We tracked dozens of recall notices and court filings to map this out for you. Across those pages, one theme repeats. People bought diesel to be cleaner, and many felt betrayed. Quick pause if these calm, fact-checked breakdowns help you choose safer cars. Hit subscribe and share this with a friend. Now, with trust shaken and millions of cars under review, the big question shifted. How would governments change the rules to stop this from ever happening again? Governments struck back, hard. Europe rolled out real driving emissions testing around 2017. Instead of only trusting a lab, regulators measured NOx on actual roads with portable equipment and set limits that mattered. Failures triggered real consequences. At the city level, low-emission zones multiplied. London expanded its ultra-low emission zone to cover the busy center and kept widening it. Older diesels paid or stayed out. Paris set a path to ban diesel cars by 2030. Madrid, Athens, and Mexico City announced similar moves. National plans shifted too. The UK and France vowed to end sales of new petrol and diesel cars around 2030, not to say 35. Taxes on diesel fuel rose in many places. The policy mood flipped from promote diesel to phase it out. We examined municipal air quality plans and national roadmaps for this episode, and the trend is clear. Make tests real, clean up city air, and push buyers toward hybrids and EVs. That's the new playbook. By the way, you're watching Recall Roadmap with Morgan, where I translate these policy waves into simple steps you can use. So, with the rules tightening and zones spreading, how did the market respond? The sales numbers tell the story. The drop is dramatic. A decade ago, diesel was half the market in parts of Europe. By late 2024, it was a shadow of itself. In Germany, only about 14.9% of new cars were diesel. In the UK, just 6.1%. UK diesel registrations even fell 10.1% year-on-year in November 2024. At the same time, electric choices surged. UK battery EVs grabbed a record 25.1% share that month. And in Germany, hybrids and EVs together hit about 38.7% of new sales. I pulled industry reports and SMMT data for those figures. They match what I hear in showrooms. Buyers are wary of city bans and future taxes. Many brands have quietly dropped diesel from key models. Jaguar, Land Rover, and Volvo have phased them out. Ford ended diesel cars by 2022. Dealers now steer shoppers to hybrid or full electric for daily use. This is a fast pivot. Diesel went from mainstream to niche in less than one product cycle. So is diesel dead? Not quite. Trucks, ships, and heavy machines still lean on it. But for the family car in your driveway, the trend line is clear. Let's finish with what diesel means from here. Here's the big picture as we head into 2025. Diesel isn't vanishing overnight, but its role is changing. It remains the primary fuel powering transport fleets and work sites. Think trucks, buses, construction gear, ships. Even there, analysts see systemic decline as cleaner tech and better fuels arrive. For personal cars, diesel is mostly legacy now. Millions of older diesels will stay for years, but buyers are moving to hybrids and EVs, and more cities are writing rules that push diesel out. There are interesting twists ahead. Biodiesel and synthetic e-diesel exist. They can cut life cycle emissions in the right use cases, especially for heavy duty. I'll add a quick poll. E-diesel or biodiesel comeback? Yes or no? But for most drivers, the future is electric and hybrid. The diesel era as a climate champion is over. It's now a cautionary tale about testing, transparency, and trust. If this helped you see the whole arc, please like the video and subscribe for more clear weekly safety breakdowns. Thanks for watching. And here's my question for you. In the big picture, did diesel help the climate more than it hurt our air or the other way around?